Hello, my name is Sharon Smith, and the title of this lecture is Don't Forget That Children and Teenagers Were an Integral Part of the Civil Rights Movement. This is an undergraduate level course in African American history. The Civil Rights Movement was a social movement and campaign that started around 1954 and lasted until 1968. The goal was to abolish legalized racial segregation, discrimination, and disenfranchisement of African Americans in the United States. Most school children in America learn about Martin Luther King Jr. and Rosa Parks for sure. If they are lucky, during Black History Month, they may learn about a few more like Thurgood Marshall or Medgar Evers. And surely most school children learn about the March on Washington, where Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. delivered his famous I Have a Dream speech. History tells mostly the story of the men of the Civil Rights era. Women wanted equal rights, and children wanted equal rights as well. Black children wanted better opportunities and treatment just as much as their parents and grandparents. Black children had to sit in the back of the bus as well as attend inferior schools with old books and limited equipment and supplies. So they knew what was going on. At a certain age, I would imagine, once children could start reading and being really aware of what was going on, it would be very hard for their parents to shield them from the realities of the Jim Crow South. Black children could clearly see that they were not allowed to eat in certain restaurants, and they could also see that they had to drink from a different water fountain than white people. Because, again, the Jim Crow South had signs that said coloreds or whites only in almost everything that people did, every place that they went. Movie theaters were separate, cemeteries were separate, water fountains were separate, restaurants, you couldn't go in through the front door, you had to get your food through the back door, and that's if you were allowed to purchase food there in the first place. African American youth were fed up, just like African American adults. History books don't pay a lot of attention to the contributions of children and teenagers that were arrested, like adults. They were spit on, like adults. Dogs were released on them, like adults. And they were verbally assaulted, just like Martin Luther King and Rosa Parks. History books tell us that the largest civil rights demonstration was the March on Washington, held in August of 1963. The estimated number of participants at the March on Washington was 250,000. In February of 1964, over 360,000 elementary and secondary school students went on strike in New York City. This day in history was called Freedom Day. Students and teachers went on strike to highlight the deplorable conditions of public schools in the city. Demonstrators also held rallies demanding school integration. Children and teenagers were on the front line of nonviolent protests and demonstrations throughout the 1950s and 1960s. But their contributions to civil rights activism has generally gone unacknowledged. Many stories of young girls and teenage girls have been overshadowed by adults in the movement. In Macomb, Mississippi, 16-year-old Brenda Travis was arrested in October of 1961 for sitting in at a bus terminal at the Greyhound bus station. Brenda was also suspended from her high school, which led to a walkout by her peers and a march by hundreds and hundreds of her fellow classmates. Brenda's classmates descended on City Hall, where they came under attack by the police, and over 100 students were arrested for this incident. Barbara Johns, another 16-year-old who attended the Prince Edward County school system, was fed up, and she didn't like the conditions at her school. She organized an assembly meeting in April of 1951 where she urged the students to walk out and boycott the school. They came up with a list of 10 demands. The students wanted simple things, like new books. They were tired of getting the used books from the white students that had names written in them and scribbled and, drawings. And they also just wanted new desks, They did not want to integrate the white school. They wanted a new building with equal facilities and equal resources. The students did not seek the approval of adults to move forward with their plans to protest. They did things on their own because they really did not know if their parents would support what they wanted to do. So they decided to take charge themselves. The Prince Edward School Board tried to ignore the protesters. NAACP lawyers arrived in Prince Edward County on April 25th, and they met with the boycotting students. They arrived only 2 days after they started the boycotting process. After talking to the students, they learned that the students were willing to go to jail if their needs were not being met. So that shows how serious they were and how much they wanted things to improve. A lawsuit was filed against the Prince Edward County School District, not only demanding improvements in the black schools, but also the total desegregation of all schools in the county. During the boycott, Barbara Johns had threats on her life, and the Ku Klux Klan burned a cross on her parents' lawn. The actions of Barbara Johns led to a federal lawsuit being filed on behalf of 117 students who asked that the state law requiring segregated schools in Virginia be totally struck down. On March 2nd of 1955, a 15-year-old named Claudette Colvin of Montgomery, Alabama, was arrested and dragged off a city bus for not giving her seat to a white lady. She paid her fare and stood her ground because she knew it was her constitutional right to be able to sit on the bus wherever she wanted to. These are just a few of the stories of children standing up for their rights. Some protested as early as age 9 and 10 years old. 18 and 19-year-old college students participated in sit-ins. These children and teenagers were sprayed with water hoses, just like the adults. They were called offensive names, just like the adults, and they were jailed, just like the adults. The civil rights movement was so much more than Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Martin Luther King Jr. played a very important role in the civil rights movement. He stood up for the rights of blacks all over the United States. He was jailed, verbally abused, and his family was threatened because of his leadership in the civil rights movement. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. paid the ultimate price for his role in the civil rights movement. He lost his life. He was assassinated. His contributions and leadership should never be diminished. We should all realize that young people put their lives on the line as well. And their stories should be told right alongside those of Martin Luther King Jr. and Rosa Parks. Thank you.